My name is John Hopper, and I'm a member of the Bergen County Militia here at the Dye Mansion. It's been many years since the war first began, and I began my service with General George Washington as a member of the Continental Army. In those days, I was a regular soldier receiving pay. My musket came from the Continental Congress. I was given food and rations, but that was many years ago. I've served in many campaigns in Philadelphia, at the Battle of Brandywine, and now I find myself fighting for my home state. I believed firmly in the cause of liberty, but I didn't know how to pursue my belief in the cause. Fighting against your home country is something that's very difficult to consider, especially when my ancestors came to this land of New Jersey many years ago as Dutch immigrants. I'm only but a poor farmer. I make my living off of the land, and to be honest, I would much prefer that the war had never happened at all. Peace is much more profitable and much better than warfare, but sometimes you find yourself fighting for causes that you believe in. I initially had no reservations against the British. After all, even though my ancestors came here as immigrants, I considered myself to be part of the American community. But when the British Army marched through northern New Jersey after conquering New York from General Washington, they were guilty of many abuses. They took livestock from my farm, food that I would have used to feed my family, goods that I could make money on. That's how I make my living as a farmer. That was one step too far as I was concerned. I joined General Washington's army for this reason, and I served many deprivations and in many campaigns, but I'm older now. I'm 31, and now I find myself a captain in the Bergen County Militia. There are about 90 of us in my company, and with General Washington here in our local area, I found it my duty once again to pick up my musket, which I have now provided for myself, and fight for General Washington's cause. When I was in the Continental Army, I was paid for my service. I would have been given my musket, but now I have to provide all of these things for myself. I wear the clothes that I would have worn every day as I was tending my farm. The land is no longer as rich as it once was. Farms are no longer productive, and every day that I spend fighting in the militia is a day that I'm not at home with my family. My wife has had to care for my children, and financial times have been very tough. She's had a hard time making ends meet. My experience of war has been terrifying, boring, and exciting all at the same time. The routine of camp life is something that can be very boring sometimes. Posting guards, fetching water, setting up and taking down camp. But Mr. Dye has been very gracious in his hospitality to us, and we are truly grateful.
Hello, how are you? You may already know me as John Hopper, but my name is Stephen Pellegrini, and I'm a history professor at William Patterson University. Reenacting is an integral part of our understanding of the past. As students of history, you may think of the topic as something that is static, a list of names and dates, and facts that don't change, that remain constant throughout time. But the truth is quite different. History is a living, vibrant topic that changes as our own society evolves and adapts to present-day challenges and questions. As public historians in their own right, Reenactors are an integral part of the process of understanding the past, interpreting primary sources, and doing new research that changes our understanding of the past. Most reenactors are not professional historians. They're members of the public just as you are. They may be lawyers. They might work at a restaurant. They might be a student or a teacher. But they share a common passion in understanding and interpreting the past. Sites like the Dye Mansion where we are today are an important public place where we can participate as members of a democratic society in the interpretation of the past. They are all over the nation, and most importantly, many of these sites are in our own backyard. I would encourage you to seek out public spaces like the Dye Mansion and check them out when you have a chance. Reenactments themselves take many forms. You have events that are held at key battlefield sites, where reenactors provide what are known as tactical demonstrations, showing to members of the public the way that armies fought during the American War of Independence, what their material culture looked like, and interpret that for a wider audience. You also have what are known as timeline events, where a specific frame of time is presented to the public to show the evolution and development in the lives of civilians and soldiers in a given period of time. Then you have what are known as living history events. Events that are held at places like this that show the public an insight into the lives of people in the past. What were their motivations? What were the elements and factors that played into the progression of their lives? What were they concerned about in their own times, and how did they adapt to those circumstances? The American Revolutionary War was a very controversial event in its own time. Not everyone agreed as to what the course of the war should be. There were many citizens in New Jersey, for example, who were loyal to the crown, who wanted to remain within the British Empire. You also had many citizens that were loyal to the American Revolutionary cause, and many in between who just wanted to be left alone to live their lives as they always had. Through understanding these perspectives, we can gain better insight into our own time, and reenactment has a very important role to play in that. Historical reenactment is only one component of a wider discipline known as public history. You may be asking yourself what public history is and why it's important. When we look at history through the lens of a textbook, it becomes difficult to understand why we should care about the facts and the events that we are reading on the written page. Public history expands history outside of the textbook and allows us to participate with it in a direct way. As I had said previously, history is a living topic that we are understanding new things about all the time. Research in primary sources, interpretation, these are the key elements of what it means to be a historian. Drawing out the meaning from the past for the present and trying to learn an insight into the lives of the people that we're studying. We can never know the whole picture. History only appears to us in limited bits and pieces, but public history offers us a tool through which we can piece those disparate elements together and form a more complete picture of the past. Public spaces like the Dye Mansion are important sites for us to understand the past. They are places where we can participate in the interpretation of history in a direct way. They are located throughout the nation, but most importantly, many of them can be found in your own backyard. As a result, I would encourage you to seek out these sites, look into programming that's being held in your local communities, and try to participate as best as you can. You may find out that you are a budding public historian. You may even find that you want to pursue history as a career in your futures. You may never know unless you try.